Buffett ran his investment partnership, which was the most successful investment partnership ever in the history of the investment business from 1956 to 1970. When I was going to set up an investment partnership in 1999, which was almost 30 years after he shut down, I could find no funds that had mirrored the Buffett partnerships. 30 years, most successful partnership, best guy in the business. I know why. Humans hate to clone. They're not going to clone Warren Buffett, even though he's God. They were not going to do it because it's beneath them. I said the Indian guy is going to do it. There was this guru, kind of a management guru in the 70s and 80s called Tom Peters. He was like kind of the Jim Collins of his time. Jim Collins also probably before your time. But Tom Peters was great. He was a great writer. He wrote a bunch of books like In Search of Excellence, Passion for Excellence. There was a story and I read one of these books when I was like 24 or 25 years old. And Tom was talking about these two gas stations in California. It was a true story. So there were these two gas stations that were diagonal from each other. And they're both self-serve gas stations. And at that time, you guys may not remember, but you couldn't just put your credit card and take gas. You basically went in the shop and did your transaction and all of that. It was a kind of more cumbersome way to fill gas, but that's the way it was then. So this one gas station owner, what he used to do is every hour and a half, he would come out, pick a random car, and just tell the driver, stay in the car. I'll give you a full serve. So I'll pump your gas, check your tires, check your oil, and clean your windshield, whatever. The guy diagonal from the street can see this happening. And his perspective is, well, this is stupid. You can't do it for everyone. What's the point, right? After a while, the guy providing the random service is getting more customers. And the guy who's not doing this diagonal across from him has seen that his business has gone down and also knows why his business has gone down. And there's no behavior change. So Tom Peters says, you can sit down with your most direct competitor. You can lay out all your trade secrets and everything to them. They will listen to you carefully and there'll be no behavior change. I said, this guy must be on drugs. This is like the most ridiculous thing I ever read. I thought Tom Peters was this happening guy. This is ridiculous. I said, how can some guy who's losing money, knowing why he's losing the customers, not make a change, right? So I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend my life proving Tom Peters wrong, okay? And I'm going to prove him wrong two different ways. First, if I see someone, competitor or other industry or whatever, doing something smart, I'm going to force myself to copy that because that proves Tom Peters is wrong. Number one. Number two, I'm going to release all my trade secrets to all my competitors. There's a kind of a academic streak to me where I'm not really particularly concerned about hurting myself just to prove the point. So I said, I'm going to really go to bat on this. And I'm going to make sure all the things I've figured out about why my company works is told to my competitors. And then I want to see what they do, right? Because I think Tom Peters is just smoking whatever substances he's smoking, right? So in this IT company I had, we had a lot of 20 somethings, right? I was hiring 3 people a week. We were just growing so fast and we have very high turnover because there's so much demand for these people that they would come in and say, I got a job that's 40% more pay. So here's my notice, I'm leaving. Or they would come and tell me, I'm going to compete with you. I'm setting up my own company to compete with you. So when they came and told me, they come and resign, I'd ask them, what are you going to do? Where are you going? And they would look at their shoes. They wouldn't look at me. They'd look at their shoes and say, I'm going to set up a business. I said, what kind of business are you going to set up? He said, I'm going to set up a business to compete with you. Still looking at his shoes, right? I said, that's awesome, man. I said, I want to help you. I said, sit down. I said, let me tell you everything I figured out. There's a bunch of stuff in this business that is not visible to you. I want to tell you everything. First of all, the guy thinks I've lost my mind. Okay, doesn't know what's going on. Like I'm playing with him, or he thinks this guy. I thought he was crazy, but he's really crazy. What's going on? He's bullshitting me. They wouldn't believe me, right? And I'd lay out everything I learned, everything that I knew worked, and I'd lay it out. So this is how you go and find. This is prospecting. This is how it's efficient. These are the metrics. Blah 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 blah. And I must have done this for 15 guys. Then I sit back and watch. No one follows anything I told them. I said, I can't prove Tom Peters wrong. Okay, I tell them exactly what to do. So now the inversion of cloning, if you understood, to me, cloning is one of the most powerful mental models. And the reason it's powerful is for the Tom Peters reason that humans, something like 98% of humans, think cloning is beneath them. They think it's somehow like copying or something below the belt. They're not interested. They want to come up with their own ideas. Okay. So, because most humans are not willing to do it, it gives you a big edge. So, like, for example, Buffett ran his investment partnership, which was the most successful investment partnership ever in the history of the investment business from 1956 to 1970. And it had an unusual set of rules. He had no management fees, all these things. And when I was going to set up an investment partnership in 1999, which was almost 30 years after he shut down, I could find no funds that had mirrored the Buffett partnerships. 30 years, most successful partnership, best guy in the business. And now I was such a disciple of Tom Peters. I know why. Humans hate to clone. They're not going to clone Warren Buffett, even though he's God. They were not going to do it because it's beneath them. I said the Indian guy is going to do it. Okay, so I took there was a biography on Buffett written by Roger Lowenstein. I took that to my lawyer. I marked some pages. I said, convert this into a legal document, okay, and follow these rules on these pages. Don't make up your own rules. These are the rules, right? I told him clone it, right? And he did, right? And we set up Pabrai Funds, and Pabrai Funds has no competition. Okay, hallelujah. Okay, and then I think like my middle name is Forrest Gump. My full name is Mohnish Forrest Gump Pabrai. Okay, so then Forrest Gump ends up meeting Warren Buffett. Okay, like what the hell, right? End up meeting Warren Buffett, and then I end up meeting Charlie Munger from Warren Buffett, right? And when I meet them, I tell Charlie, I said, Charlie, you know those Buffett partnership rules? Nobody followed them. The Indian guy was forced to follow them because nobody followed them. He said, well, Monish, there were a couple of guys who followed them. I said, yeah, but I couldn't find them. He said, yeah, you were not going to find them. They're too obscure to find. And I explained to him that those rules gave me. So what I did is my investors, when I started getting my investors, some investors came to me because they hate the concept of paying fees which are not linked to performance, which is where the whole industry works, right? The way the industry works is you pay me 1 or 2% for breathing, okay? And then after that, if I do well for you, you pay me another 20%. What a concept, okay? But that's the way the whole industry works. So some people came to me because they just didn't want to deal with that, right? The ones that came to me because they just liked me, I made sure they understood everything. I like brainwashed them that these frictional costs are important. I just kept brainwashing all my investors. Frictional costs are important. And then finally they agreed with me. Yeah, frictional costs are really important. So they just stayed with me. Then if someone else approached them to invest with them, they would not go because they said, oh, you have management fees. I can't go there. I can't pay management fees. Please take it to zero. They said, what are you talking about? Take it to zero. And so I think the thing is that cloning is a really, really powerful heuristic. So if you and I think from a startup point of view, right, you can listen to the customer and you can change direction. Even more powerful than that is clone an existing model, right? So someone's figured out something that's working, set your ego aside, just mirror it, and it'll work. It's even better than listening to the customer because it's already scaled, and you might be able to do a little better than what they've done it at.